Alright, so I thought I'd do a little updated graph viewer video, more related to no prep drag racing. So first we start with our castle link, and if we go into logging, we've got to make sure that the correct options are checked, because if you don't have motor RPM here, it's not getting logged, it's not going to show on the graph. So as long as these are all checked, if you're not using auxiliary mode, if you're not using Beck, these can be removed, and it will give you more data saving capability. So you can see here that's 7 minutes. If I get rid of those two, I've got 9 minutes. The other thing is to set the sample frequency to 10 samples per second. That's the highest rate. That gives you the most data. And then once it's connected to the EEC, hit update. So just make sure you've got the right settings here. 10 sample frequency, and that's what you need. So when we get to the graph itself, we'll open up a log. And then generally this is where we start. We have a whole bunch of information here that doesn't really give us a lot of detailed information. So there's 2 runs here, a couple of burnouts, and a whole mismatch of information. Some of the first things we need to do is go to our edit and change the motor pole and gearing count. So most of the smaller no prep motors, the 540, are going to be 2-pole. The new 6400 kV is a 4-pole, so we make sure we set that at 4-pole. And the other thing to do is set the gearing to 1-to-1, however you want to put it here. Just make sure it's 1-to-1 gearing. The reason for this is that gives us the actual motor shaft RPM, not axle or all these other random numbers, but the actual motor, what it's spinning at. Once we hit OK. The other thing under view, we want to set obviously your temperature for where you are, time, capabilities, the power, RPM, graph smoothing. So we want to remove graph smoothing. When we add graph smoothing, it actually averages out the details. So I'll just give you a quick demo on that. I'll zoom in just on this detail here, and if I go to graph smoothing, high, I'll go back in, you'll see now it's a much smoother, all the RPM looks nice and clean, all that kind of detail. And if we have a look, our RPM's 51,602, we turn off graph smoothing, go back into that specific run, and now our RPM is 54,000 RPM. So graph smoothing will average a lot of information out, so it's not actually all the correct information that we need. Looks good though. So the other thing is we've actually got a number of sessions here. So this is actually an ESC cut. The ESC actually cut out at this point and gave me a rapid temp increase error. Here the ESC changed sessions, so this was it turning on and off. So generally what I do is between a run, I turn the ESC off, download the data, and view it as a single run. But this one I actually have 2 runs on one log. So what I want to do is just view this particular run. I can go to the sessions, view sessions, choose a session, and just pick session 1. Now that gives me just that run. The next thing I want to do is zoom in. So I start at the top, I use the left click, and then drag the mouse over the graph. And now I see just the run specifically. While we're in here, if there's bits of information that we don't want to see or it's too messy, if we just click on the actual title here for Ripple, and I can zoom back in, actually remove the ripple. Same with ESC temp, motor temp. Now I've just got a few more details. So a couple of the main things is my throttle curve, my RPM, current and horsepower, almost similar bits of information realistically, and then my power out. and the other big key one is my voltage sag. So that's my voltage, and that's how it's dropping out through the run. So when we're looking at the data from the ESC, I use SANMOD. So this little bit here, that little line there from the throttle signal, is the point. So that's the point location. So I think I'm around 20 on the point, and that gives me 33% power out. So where I move the mouse, you see down here on this line here where it says mouse. So all the information along that top line is where my cursor is or my mouse is. So point is 34% power. So basically it's almost instantaneous power. And then from here to here is the ramp. So from Sanwa, that's the forward speed, like minus 96. For Taba, it's just like positive speed. So that just gives me my launch power and then progressive increase of power through the run. What I want to watch is my RPM is increasing smoothly like that. No real jumps, so it doesn't jump up and down, which would indicate wheel spin. But all these sort of lines look nice and progressive. They're all moving up as power goes on, and it's holding power as long as it can. So I think for this ESC, I'm actually reaching the capacity of the amp log. So it's showing a flat line where it's probably actually still increasing at this stage, because I'm only pulling 213 amps, where on a Mamba Monster 8S with a higher amp rating or amp logging, you can see more amps. So it's not really giving you the true indication of what this motor is pulling. But what I do see is it's a good RPM curve. I'm always increasing in RPM. It's not falling over. None of this power is falling over. And the main thing is also watching my sag. So it is on this one dropping to a minimum of 6.5 volts. So not too bad comparing, this is probably a 2.1 pass at 75 mile an hour. 6.5 volts of sags is pretty good. We're really loading these things up. So that's the kind of information I want to see with my throttle curve, my RPM, and then also I can see whereabouts in RPM I'm looking to start my timing curve. So I'm at 6,400 RPM, so this is where I start my curve very early in on the run, and then it ends at 49,000 RPM. So about here, I'm fully engaged in timing. So I'm putting in timing all through this range, not waiting till I'm at 46 and then adding it in really sharply at the end. It's progressively growing in the whole way. So yeah, they're mainly the main things I look at in a run is my max RPM, so how much RPM I'm getting, my current is making sure it's being loaded, so the ESC is actually being loaded. If your current is not that high, could be wheel spin, because wheel spin's not going to actually be loading the ESC. And then my voltage sag. So too much sag means I'm just overpowered the whole system, and just the battery just can't keep up. So I'm either too low on the final drive, or just hitting it just too hard too soon, which is going to drag the voltage down. So yeah, that's about it for more no prep related graph view.